Yeah.
Okay. As a motivation for the talk, I want to show you what is possible in JMP when you add some helper tools there. And here I use the image to table add-in that I downloaded from the marketplace. And this is a nice add-in. Here you can select a standard image. And at first place, it will just show this image as an image. And with the standard JMP features like the laser pointer, you can already make some nice things here. So the task here is to get from the entrance to the exit as fast as possible. And this is really a children game, and everybody can do that. And I think it will take 2 or 3 minutes to get to the exit. And when you get stuck somewhere, then you turn back and move on, and then you will find the way. Definitely, so 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But with JMP, it's orders of magnitude faster. And actually, it's just a trick, but it illustrates power of JMP. And the first step is we want to import this data as a data table. And that's it. So now we have the image as a data table with XY positions. And here now, when I use again the mouse, I can select the data points. A disadvantage of JMP is here I have the X and Y positions, but I don't know anything about neighbors. So here it's clear that the row 1 is a neighbor of the row 2, and also row 3 is a neighbor of the row 2. But JMP doesn't know this. And we have to tell JMP this to apply the next trick. And this is here I want to introduce the quick select toolbar. And since last week, this is also available from the marketplace. So what we do is we click here on this icon, and this icon helps us to find the neighbors. So we just have to select the coordinates, and we want to find the direct and diagonal neighbors. We click here, then JMP does some magic and adds here now a new column with the neighbors. And so here we see now for row 2, row 1 and row 3 are neighbors, and there are 3 other neighbors. And JMP also counts the neighbors, and here's also an example how that can be used. So here, for example, I calculate the maximum of the X position of all neighbors. So far, so good. And now let's apply this trick, the second part of the trick. And this is this paint bucket tool that is available in every graphics program. And when we click here and then select one data point, JMP will use this neighbor column to find additional neighbors. And after some while, it will find all the neighbors that belong to this orange wall. And here you see now this complicated maze is constructed by 2 walls, the left and the right wall. One is black, one is orange. And now really every child within seconds can scan this image and can get from the entrance to the exit, just staying between the orange and the black wall. And when your boss thinks that it's cool to go this way, then you know, okay, 2 black walls, we don't have to go there. And this is really just fun. But for me, it's really, this is how JMP feels, that you have the power to analyze data really in seconds. And often you cannot do it with standard JMP. You need some additional tricks. Yeah, and here I want to show you how you can implement these tricks in JMP. And there are different ways. So the really easiest way is via the view, customize menus and toolbars function. You have access to all the main menu and toolbars and so on. And here you can then in the main menu add a new menu. You can also go to a toolbar like here the tools and add here via insert after command, a new command. And then you can give it an icon, a name. And here the easiest way is, or the simplest way is just to paste some JSL code here that it scans always up and down in the data table. Are the neighbors, do the neighbors belong to the wall or not? And then adjust the entry in row number. And Another way is not pasting the code, but linking to a JSL file. This is much more comfortable because then you just have to set this up once and then you just have to edit the JSL file. And the third option is here via the built-in commands. Here you can pick any command that is already available in JMP and bring it to the surface. And many of the entries here really use this feature. They are well hidden in some submenu. Maybe people do not even know it, or they need 5 mouse clicks, and now they are available with 1 mouse click. So the first option to generate that, but this is hard to share with colleagues. So what is much easier is via file new add-ins. And here you can create your own add-ins. And in principle, it's very similar to what you saw before. You have access to the menu structure and to the toolbar structure. Big disadvantage is that they restrict here the access to the add-ins menu, and there's no possibility to add or to access the other menus. Yeah, but on the other hand, quite nice. You can also add here toolbars and add your own commands there. The other restriction is that you don't have access anymore to the built-in commands. So that is just available via version 1. Version 3 is the add-in manager. This is also from the marketplace. It's built by employee of JMP, and this is really super powerful. So when you program JSL, I think 90% of you already know all the story here. You should use the add-in this add-in manager, because then you have access to all the add-ins that you generated. And here you also have access to the menus. So let's pick this one. I created in the add-ins menu a command. I could also add here top level main menu like file. Then I have also access to the file menu, or I could also add a top level custom command like version 18. Then you always know that this is version 18 and you can distinguish it from version 17. Because in the general info, you can say this add-in should just be loaded if it's version 18. And then you can create another menu with version 17 and load it just for version 17. And I think this is, for me, really helpful. I also have the beta version of JMP 19, and then you can check which version you are using at the moment. So quite nice. There is also some restrictions. You see here access to the main menu structure, no access to the toolbar structure, unfortunately. There is also a fourth way, or a combination of this one. And when something is missing here, you can access the add-ins manually. Now I have this on my way. Via view add-ins. And let's take the quick select toolbar. Here's always a link to this add-in. When you click here, you are in the folder with the add-in. You have here a customization file and all your JSL files. And when you double click here, then maybe change the language to XML, then you have here this settings file and maybe use a shorter one. Here, the commands that you enter have always these blocks from command to command. You give them a name, you give them, here a tip, a hover tip, you give them an icon, and the most important thing, an action that should be executed when the user clicks on that. Yeah, and this is now where we want to start and look at some add-ins that are available from the marketplace. And to facilitate that, I created another add-in that is the add-in inspector. And it's just there to spy into the add-ins. And we start with the add-in inspector itself to check what it does. So this is the add-in inspector. In the add-in, there is just a single command, and this is the command in a JSL file. So maybe maybe a bit larger one. So what does it do? It goes to the add-ins folder. So it just takes itself to get there. goes one level up, and then the user can here specify whatever add-in he wants to look at today. And then this add-in scans all these folders and goes to this custom file, loads the custom file. And as I showed you, it's just three informations. So the name, the icon, and the code that is interesting. It's an XML file, so there is an open, and this I didn't create myself, so I just opened a file and then JMP created this. And then it scans this data table, and for each entry in the data table, it fills a tree, or it generates a tree node and adds this tree node to the tree. So then this tree is generated. And how do we generate this GUI? So the first step is we just generate a script window. So we have now already 90% of this window. What's just missing is this thing on the left. And as every window in JMP, you can change it. And what do we change? We take the splitter box, we add something before the splitter box, and this is a vlist box, which contains here this list of data tables links and this tree node, or this tree. And for this tree, we just mount somehow the root, and then we get automatically all the other nodes of the tree. And the last thing that we have to do is we have to tell JMP what should happen when a user clicks here on an entry. And when the user clicks on an entry, it should ask the node for the data. In the data, it should ask the associative array for the code. And then it should check the code if it's a JSL file. If it's a JSL file, it loads the JSL file. If not, it just displays the code. Yeah, and that's it. And now after the introduction of the add-in inspector, we can now use it. And we first use it for the quick select toolbar. And we start with the last entry. So here we have this icon, we have the function exclude. And what does it do? It just calls this function that is already available from the rows hide and exclude menu. And you see here in many windows, there is no row menu. So if you want to call that, you first have to go to the data table, find your right data table, and then call this function. So it's much faster if you just click on this entry, and then you can exclude the current selection. And it's clear what it does. So when you are in a plot, here you have the row, but it's much faster when you click here, then the points are excluded. The way back is then this button here. So clear all the excluded states. And when we check how it works, clear excluded, here I use it a little bit differently. So I take the current data table, I select the excluded rows and set them to not excluded. Same structure is here a little bit clear selection. So there are some plot types where it's impossible to clear, or here, let's start with that. Here it's easy to clear the selection, I just have to click somewhere. But there are other plot types where it's not possible to clear the selection because there is no free space, and even worse, so when I select here some points and want to clear the selection, I can click here, but this just clears this one, then I can click here, 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 and maybe I have to do that 100 times, and that was really annoying. And now with this new function, I can just clear it with a single mouse click. And maybe for some users who use a DOE or some SPC or so, this is not so interesting, but for exploratory data analysis, this is really powerful, because if one step just takes a second, then you can take many steps in 1 minute. And if one step takes 10 seconds or so, then it's much less steps, and then you are much slower than your colleague. Okay, and we were now here. Now let's go back to the add-in inspect. That's the wrong one. The next one is again easy. So calls utilities text to columns. So this is a function that many users use. So you can click here, say it's separated by a comma, and then you get the individual values. But normally it's really hidden in the utilities, and then you have to search for it text to columns. And here now it's just a single mouse click, and if you do that 20 times a day, you will be happy that it's here. So the next three are a little bit together, and let's start with the center one, and maybe just introduce it, how it works. So when you click here, nothing happens. So just this column is added with many zeros. But now the power comes when you select something, then the selected rows get a 1. And this is very powerful when you plot data. Then you can also use this information here either as an overlay and then make different fits for different data interactively, or you can also use this as a split here. And then you have here a standard plot, and once you select something, the data is moved to this other plot. Unfortunately, when you don't select anything, you don't see this other plot. This is a little bit annoying, and there are many other places where this happens, and that will be fixed in the near future. So I already have this here implemented. With this forced value 0 and 1, you always get this 0 and 1 in the next version. And how does the select work? So it's really just a column with the formula selected, and that's it. And there is another button that is the black one. So let's also use the black one. So check. Then we can give it a name. And then we have here selected one. So at the moment it's the same, but once we move the selection, we see that this is static and this one is dynamic. And the difference here between the two commands is here we have a formula selected in the new column, and here we have exactly the same new column, but with a set each value, and then it's just set once at the time where it's generated. And we need, in addition, this window, this dialog window to ask the user for the name. The most powerful is the third one, and let's just use it first. So here we can select data points, click here, and tag them. Then when we open this again, it's very nice that the old name is still there. Then I could add this to the other selection, but I could also change that. And when there is an overlap, I will get both labels. And this is helpful when you collect information, that you scan your data for half an hour and that you just collect information in this column. And then afterwards, you can, maybe we have still an open plot. Use this column here in Graph Builder, and since JMP 16, the Graph Builder knows about this multiple response property. The special icon here that one row could have 2 entries, and if there are 2 entries, then this row shows up as 2 data points. And here you see automatically this connection here in the plot, and this makes it very helpful. Then you could also add a local data filter and use these labels. The cool thing here is, as this is multiple response, you can also invert somehow the selection, match none. This is not possible for any other column. This is just possible at the moment for multiple response columns, that you invert your selection here. Okay, so far here, let's look at the code. Selected label. So it uses something more, so it has also some settings that can be stored. You can store your favorite labels there, and they will always show up there. And then the main part, let's start here. So it starts here with the main part. What does it do? It generates this main window that you saw. And when the user entered the label and clicked OK, it will store the new label as the old label, such that it will show up automatically the next time with the menu. And then it will update the label column. And update the label column is that it just scans all the labels, checks if the label is already there. If it's not there, it adds the label separated by a comma. And if there's nothing there at all, it just puts the label there. So this is the main part of the code. Okay, then come to easy ones. So here I just add 2 columns with 1 and 1. So the 1 is nominal and the other is continuous. Why is that useful? So when you have a plot like this, sometimes you want to show a histogram next to the plot. And this is now very easy. When you click here, then you get this one, and then you just have to drag the one here and drag a histogram here and remove the points. And then you have a histogram next to your plot, and you can shrink the histogram, and then it looks already quite cool. And you could also put the one here, add another histogram, remove the points, shrink it, and make it larger. Yeah, quite easy. So you can also do that with other labels or with some transform column, but here it's really just a single click. This count function I can show you here in the data table. When I select age and sex, now I want to count every entry here, and it should really act cumulative, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then it should start again at 1 if one of the entries changes. And here I want to show a little bit the power of expression handling. So what does it do? It just gets the selected columns, age and sex, and what we want to do at the end, we want to generate a call rank, and we do not want to have a list. And that's easy. We just have to substitute the list with a call rank. And but call rank of age and sex would be wrong. So we want to have a call rank of row or 1 or so. So the first thing that we have to do is in this list, we just add row. So now we have a list. Not so clever, but a list of row, age, and sex. And now the last step is just replace the list with a call rank, row, age, sex. And then we are finished. Then we just have to send this command via a new column. Okay, so far. Then the neighbors, which we started. So here we saw this dialog window where the user could pick the columns and check with a radio button if he wants to use the direct or direct and diagonal neighbors. Depending on the setting, we calculate a maximum distance. Then we save something that is already there. And then really the magic after some steps is here. So we take the coordinates as a matrix, and then we just have to tell JMP, here's a matrix, generate a KD table. And KD table means then you have the neighbors, and you know the distance of the neighbors. So you get the neighbors and the distances. The neighbors distance. Here, the neighbors and the distances. And now we have to correct the neighbors a little bit, because here at the moment I generate more neighbors than I need, and I have to scrap all the neighbors that are too far. So I check if the distance is too large, and if the distance is too large, I just scrap the neighbor, otherwise I take the neighbor, and then I store this list of neighbors as a vector in the data table, and then this is in principle what you saw there. Then there is some additional code because I generate the list in another data table with the wrong row numbers, and then I have to correct the row numbers to match with the row numbers in the original table. Therefore, I update the original table with the neighbor information and so on. But this is not so important, no magic there. So the magic is really this single line of code. Okay, and I want to finish here with these last two entries. So this is again a command from JMP and some cool addition. So here often it's easy to select some data points, but you are interested in the opposite. And with that, you can just flip the selection to the opposite. And then let's say we have a small selection, and then we want to work on this selection. And when you have it in the data table, it's nice that all these rows are selected, but once you click there somewhere, the selection is gone, and so not so nice. And therefore, what we need is a subset of these selected rows, and this is the command here. And the cool thing is here that this is a linked subset. So standard setting for subset is non-linked. And when you then edit here the settings in the linked subset and go back to the main data table, then the main data table is also updated. So very powerful when you have to make tiny changes to your data table. Then use your graph to select the interesting data points, generate the subset, and then change it. And how does it work? So here are many comments, and they are all in this post in the chat, because yeah, in principle the main code is just generate a subset as a linked subset. So linked one. But sometimes you don't want to have a linked subset, you want a non-linked subset. And okay, there is this default setting with subset, but maybe the settings are not perfect, and then it's 2 clicks. And my idea was that the user could specify if he wants a linked subset or not linked subset. And that he could do with the control key. And there's a command in JMP. What is the status of the control key? Is it clicked or not clicked, or pressed or not pressed? And this is then stored in the setting. And when I use not setting, then the standard thing is then I generate a linked subset. And when the user presses control, then I would get a non-linked subset. Unfortunately, so the code is already there, but it doesn't work because of this issue. And so there is already a wish there, and there are 11 other users who think it would be cool to have this functionality not only available in standard JSL, but also for add-ins, for example, that JMP really checks the control key. So it's, on the other hand, it's almost strange that it doesn't work in such add-ins. In other codes it works. So this is the first comment for this, and there is more code around. And why did I add this more code around that I will also want to illustrate? So I still have this linked subset, and let's add now 3 rows here at row 4. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So you cannot add rows if there's a linked subset. That's a little bit strange. The other strange thing is, let's add here this other data to the data table. This is not possible because concatenating tables is not possible if there's a linked subset. And let's sort here the data by the height, but this is not possible if there's a linked subset. The good thing here is that it suggests to generate a new data table, but nobody wants to generate a new data table. Everybody wants to work with the current data table. Therefore, this link, and it's already in the chat. Please, if you are interested here, that was this one. And the other link is make, concatenate, add, and sort work even if there are linked subsets. There are also other cases where it doesn't work. So actually there are two bugs why that doesn't work. So it would be cool. At the moment, this is super dangerous. So because if you use the quick select toolbar, when you use a linked subset, very powerful, but maybe you forgot this linked subset, then you execute a code which just sorts the data table in step 5000. And there are 5000 more steps. Then this code will crash at this step with a half-finished code. Very, very dangerous. And therefore, for my linked subsets, I generate this Hogi subsets data namespace. And in this namespace, I collect all my subsets. And then I can call this Hogi subsets, close all subsets to close all these dangerous subsets. Then I can be sure that I can concatenate data, I can add rows, and I can sort data. Okay, so far for the quick select toolbar. So we have now 20 minutes. I will just show some functionality without a lot of details. So this was just added to the graph builder toolbar, and I think it's quite helpful. So I will show it. We have this graph. The graph builder toolbar is very well hidden. After installing it from the marketplace, you will not find it, because actually it's just an extension of the report toolbar. So you have to open the report toolbar, and the standard report toolbar is just these three icons, and I added the other icons. Here it's a little bit hidden. This is why I always move it to the left and have it available here. And this was actually the first toolbar that I generated, because I was annoyed of going here to the red triangle, show control panel, and close, and red triangle. And so every time I wanted to update a graph, and therefore I added this button, and now I can open and close the control with a single mouse click. Let's just check how it works. There is this command show control panel with a 1 or 0, and I have just to check if this if box that controls the visibility of this control panel has state 1 or 0. I invert the state and send it back to the graph builder object. Then I can do that. Very similar is this button. So here I think nobody is interested in the legend. So it's clear that this is a histogram of height, and this is a box plot of weight. This is a box plot of height, and this one is a box plot of weight. So I could remove it. But after 2 seconds, I want to change the color of this box plot, and the only way to change the color is via the legend. Okay, then I have to go here to the show legend, change the color, and then again show legend to remove it again. And with this button, I can do it 5 times in a second. And how does it work? So very similar to the first one. So there's also a command show legend. You invert this option. And how do you get the information if it's open or not? Jump reduces the width of the box to 0 if it's closed, and resets the width if it's open. So you just have to check the width of this thing. And then the width is either larger than 0 or 0. And when you invert the setting, you get a 1 or a 0. And here you see there is additional code necessary, because with the next version, the width is not the width of this box anymore, but there will be an encapsulating box, and this box will change its width. So depending on the jump version, you have to talk to the legend box or to the parent of the legend box. Okay, these two were the motivation for the Graph Builder toolbar, and now more fancy is this Graph Builder remote control. You see that is a little bit longer code, yeah, but nothing really fancy. I talk to the legend server, so if there's a plot, there's always a legend, and maybe I generate a new plot to be sure that everything works. And I decided that I use a special plot here. Date, temperature. So these are measurement stations over 1 year. They measure the temperature, and I want to cluster it a little bit. So now we have clusters of, let's say, 3 measurement stations that are all red, and we get these curves. And at the moment, it looks very noisy, and I want to optimize this graph and maybe adjust a little bit the colors. And to do so, I could now here change here the line color and add here some zigzag lines, but here it should not average the data points. It should go really through all measurement curves. So I can change here the row order such that it goes through the first measurement station, jumps back to the second measurement station, and so on. So now this curve is already quite what I want, but I don't want to have these nasty lines. And yeah, this is part of this Graph Builder remote control. The first thing is remove zigzag lines. And first it doesn't do anything. Then you try again, and then it tells you, you have to say missing value, no connection. Missing value, no connection. Then you don't have the zigzag lines anymore. And in the background, what does it do? Every time when the X value jumps back, it adds a dummy line, and this dummy line gets no connection. Then the zigzag lines are gone. So now we have a very crowded plot with the smooth fit and the lines. So, and we added the lines at the end. So this is the lines and this is the fit. So let's take all and adjust the transparency. Then the legend is filled with all settings. And now we can go to the lines and maybe the markers, adjust the transparency again. And then you see nicely the fit lines and the transparent raw data, and maybe adjust the fit lines a little bit. And maybe, so when we have the marker again, we could also play with the marker and so on. And when you want to change the color, let's say we want to have this black, then you just have to change it to black. Yeah, much easier. So here I think you can save 20 minutes or so when you have a complicated plot, and via the legend server, it's really horrible. And here it's really click, click, click. The only thing that is missing is I don't know in a bar plot how I can reset the settings. So there is no filled bar plot anymore. Therefore, when you got stuck somewhere, you can always reset the graph and then start again. Yeah, I don't want to go here into detail. That we could do maybe in the next session. The last thing that I want to show is already posted in the chat or in this community posts. So when I close here Jump and open it, at the moment I have a problem. The largest problem is that my colleagues have this problem, and I think every colleague asks me what will happen in 25 days. Will the Earth still turn, or what happens there? And it's clear that we already ordered the license update, and it's just a matter of finishing the order and paying it, and then this thing will disappear. And I think many of you saw that, and there's already this community post also how to fix that. Chamo found that, and yeah, and I have yeah, one could also play around a little bit with this. And what I did was on the desktop, expiry warning. When you install that, instead of this warning, you get some wind data. In the original version, it's not wind data, it's a comic. But I asked the comic company if it's possible to put it here, but they said don't put it there. So I put this open source wind data there. But actually, you could put anything here. And this is the last thing that I want to show you, that you really can say, okay, license renewal is organized. Don't worry, please enjoy something. And if you don't want to see it anymore, you can apply Chamo's trick and don't show it again in the future. How does it work? In the add-ins, there is now this expiry warning. We can go to this add-in, and there is no real JSL file that is executed. When we go here, it's empty. So nothing in the menu because I didn't click anything. But with every add-in, you get also the possibility to specify an add-in load JSL. And this is executed when the add-in is loaded every time, every day. And so here the add-in first checks for this window. If the window is not even there, so it can stop because nothing has to be done. Then we also have an update function in our company. And then we can start here with namespace expiry warning that we need later to organize the content. And now we try to open this my content file, and we open future user file. And we can just open this future user file. Here I added 2 users and 2 years. So now if a user with these initials opens Chum in this year, then Chum will find this row, and then it says, okay, there is one entry with this row, then let's go here. Otherwise, we cannot help the user because the license is not organized for him yet. And then your IT department could update the add-in if the license is organized for additional users. Then they just have to update this users file. And now, if the user will get a new license, he should not worry about that. And then we could change text. Okay, license renewal is organized. Don't worry, please enjoy something. And the something is here stored in this namespace. And why is it stored in this namespace? Because we have this additional command and store something in this namespace. And here it's very easy. So just web browser box, but you could put anything that you want. Maybe what's in the canteen today, weather data, anything. And did I close it? No. Okay, and then is then at the end, there's also this checkbox, don't show again. And here we have the 2 options. So the user can click it twice. So the first time it will set a new table variable with the current year. And then for this year, it will not show again. Next year, it will show again. Or when the user clicked there and then said, but I want to see the weather data, then he can click again and then it will delete the variable again. But as soon as the user said okay and then close the menu, then the variable is saved, and then he has to go manually to this data table and remove the table variable. Okay, is it still? Oh, no, I closed it. Yeah, I don't have to show that. Okay, that was everything that I wanted to show. Are there questions?
I saw someone hands up for a moment. Yes. Yeah. So David Schmidt, yes, please.
Yeah, just a quick question. You may have mentioned this, but in the find nearest neighbor function that you demonstrated, can that work in any n-dimensional data set? And does it find the shortest distance, or does it find the Cartesian XYZ distances, or both?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you can specify the way of the distance, but I think the standard setting at least is Cartesian, and you can select whatever you want number of dimensions. And I think the direct will always work, because then the distance is then okay. With the diagonal, it could be that my setting is now just correct for dimension 2. I have to check that, but I said, okay, if the distance is a little bit larger than 1, or all values that have distance smaller than 1 should be included, and that are the direct neighbors. And it will definitely, this setting will automatically work with any number of dimensions. And
Okay.
so I could show that again. So the standard application case is that you have some XY dies on some wafers, and that I didn't show before. So you would then also use the coordinates. So here again, 2 dimensions. But what we have here in addition, we have some third discrete dimension. So here in this case, it would really be horrible if I just started like this, because then it would also find every die on the other wafers, and with this grouping it will just find dies on the wafer itself. So this is possible, but if there is also a dimension, you could just put the C die here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome.
From my side, can you open the add-in manager again, please?
The add-in manager, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you cannot, when you have an add-in, you cannot put it in the toolbar analyze, right?
Yeah, here it's not possible to add here a toolbar.
No, but you can, if you wanted to have it in analyze, you can open the menu tree, and the submenu add-in, change it to DOE or analyze subgroup quality and process, and then it should put it in the toolbar itself.
In the toolbar? Why in the toolbar? The toolbar is completely separate from the menu structure.
Yeah, that's what I meant. If you want to have it in analyze graph or cells,
it is possible here.
Yeah,
so because here, that is what I illustrated here. You can say add top level main menu, and you could add file, or you could also add, as you said, analyze.
Yeah.
This is possible, but and here when you say analyze predictive modeling, you would recreate this here with submenu predictive modeling.
It's probably not working with different languages. Not sure. Test it out. But I say in my company, please put everything in English. It makes life.
Yeah, right. I also say that, and even worse. So also use the English version of JMP. So my apologies for people who don't use the English version. You will not see all these commands because they are added in front of the local data filter, and really, really nasty. So the local data filter is the only object in JMP which has a language specific name. So the local data filter will have a different name in your language, and then it will not find the local data filter on your screen, and it will not add the commands. And for all the other commands, there is in the background still something like local data filter, and in the foreground there is then your name. But in the background, for example, the graph builder, so the helper key for graph builder is always graph builder, and in German, graph builder is graph erstellen, but it will still find the graph builder, but the local data filter, unfortunately, it doesn't find. So this is still open problem. So I have 2 colleagues who prefer the German version, and they miss at the moment 6 functions. Yeah.
And on the general info, just one left on the add-in manager.
General info,
you can select the path on test and prod to auto-update your file. Unfortunately, at the moment, what doesn't work is SharePoint, because on your SharePoint link there is your individual name, which then breaks this function.
So that's not an issue, because here this is just to put it there, and you could put your SharePoint link there, and then the file is there, and the actual issue is with the update. Then there is this cool update function. I don't know, settings.
Yeah, it's here. But when you distribute the add-in, it will know where this add-in was stored, but it has the SharePoint folder.
Yeah, but there it's very easy to fix that. So you can store your add-ins in the SharePoint, and your colleagues can update that. You just have to correct the path.
Yeah, for each individual, because in their SharePoint folder is their name.
So my comment is I fixed it, and here you just have to update this update check file, and when you add there 2 lines of code, then everything is fixed.
Oh,
for
nice.
The whole future for everything. But you don't have to do that, I think, because in JMP 19 they will automatically include this update functionality in JMP, so you don't need this update JSL function anymore.
Yeah, we have another question. Is it possible to sort add-ins after they have been added?
Yeah.
I don't think you mean in the loading screen, but it could be in the loading screen that it also sorts it there in the menu.
So,
would that be something?
So that is like this, because as I said here, so you can specify that functions are added before or after some specific function, but the standard setting is just put it there. And when you say for the first add-in, put it there, for the add-ins menu, then it puts it there. Then comes a second add-in, then it fills the next one, the next one.
Yep.
So here from this.
So if you put in image table tools lower in the list,
then it will show up. Like, this is my message. Yeah. Because it's the topmost, and you can just say, okay, it's 20.
Load order. Yeah, the last one.
At the bottom.
There you go. Does that answer a question? I think that was what was meant. Very good. Very good. Yep.
Yeah, and really the largest issue with the add-in manager is that the toolbar setting is not there. You can edit the custom file, but then don't dare to use this function anymore, because as soon as you add here a command, all your toolbars will be destroyed. So I think the add-in manager loads the custom file and then saves it, and because it doesn't know about the toolbars, it just deletes the toolbar settings.
Okay.
Okay, then we are finished. Good.
Okay. Then a big thank you. Really, that was very interesting. Thanks a lot.